What does it mean to be presumed innocent if you've already done 3 years of a jail sentence before you've even gone before a jury?
It's what can happen if, like 40% of our jail population, you can't make bail. Most locked up for nonviolent crimes, most black and brown and poor. They're there because they can't pay to get out. So is justice based not on what you did, but what you've got? Bail, on this edition of Due Process.
Major funding for Due Process provided by the Fund for New Jersey, supporting informed citizens for an effective democracy.
You're arrested, charged with a crime, brought to court. So what happens next? Well, that probably depends on how much is in your pocket or your bank account. If you can't make bail, no matter how small, you'll be placed in a cell pending trial, and you might be there for years. I'm Raymond Brown.
And I'm Sandra King, and on this edition of Due Process, an unflinching look at the New Jersey way of bail. It's a far cry from what you see on Law and Order, raising questions about class and race and what's done every day in the name of justice.
Mr. Rivera, please step forward.
You did plead guilty.
Yes.
Weren't you guilty?
No, I wasn't guilty.
So why would somebody plead guilty who wasn't guilty?
Like I said, I just wanted to get out.
But you want to continue with the sentencing today because this is a negotiated plea agreement. You understand that?
That was your only way out.
Yeah.
The only way out after almost a year locked up.
Your Honor, Mr. Rivera was incarcerated from May 25th, 2012 until April 9th, 2013.
And in jails across New Jersey and the nation, that stretch before conviction or even indictment is not unusual.
There's a huge problem with the bail system, that there are thousands, millions of people nationally who are being held because they can't afford often small amounts of bail.
For Victor Rivera, freedom could have been bought with
$25,000 bond or $2,500 cash.
He couldn't come up with $2,500 cash.
That's what kept him incarcerated for 11 months, $2,500.
If he had been somebody with access to just a couple of $1,000s,
it would be a different story.
So the purpose in New Jersey is to ensure your presence at trial. But what we've in fact done is replaced it with a system that so heavily relies on money bail that it keeps poor people in jail pre-trial, and the functional effect is that it extracts guilty pleas from innocent people on a routine basis.
If you had waited to go to trial, how long do you think you would have been in there?
15, 16 months.
Good luck, Mr. Rivera. Someone from probation will be up.
Charged with verbally threatening a cop, Rivera's guilty plea led to time served and release.
When they come up to court and they have that much time in and they're made an offer where they can go home, it's a hard offer to refuse.
If we hadn't took the plea, we could have sat there for 5 years. We could have sat there for 5 years.
Without a trial?
Without a trial.
Ricky Robinson and two co-defendants, insisting they were innocent of breaking into an abandoned dairy, but unable to make bail, held out for 21 months in the Union County Jail, their trial repeatedly delayed before they finally gave up and said guilty. So Ricky could have, with $5,000 and a bondsman, gotten out.
Yes.
$5,000 was not something he could make.
He could not. He was indigent. He is a very poor person.
How typical is that of your clients?
That's very typical. Most of my clients are very, very poor.
Most Black or Latino, most unable to make even small amounts of bail.
40% of the people who are in our jails are there strictly because they cannot afford the often nominal amounts of bail that they've been given.
And 40% is no guess. It's based on a study of New Jersey's jails commissioned by the Drug Policy Alliance, showing who's in, for how long, and why they're there.
The average length of stay is 10 months, all because that person couldn't afford a few $100s in bail.
You say that's discrimination.
It's discrimination because whether or not you are released in New Jersey is based on resources and not on your risk to the community.
And even the governor thinks risk, not resources, should be the standard.
So I ask you to approve my bail reform package, which would mirror the federal system. It would keep offenders with a history of violence who are a danger to our communities in jail until the time of trial, instead of releasing them back into society to prey on the public.
The Chief Justice has weighed in too, naming a committee to study the problem of backlogged cases and less than speedy justice, citing the Drug Policy Alliance survey.
We need to consider the study in light of the issue of speedy trial and pretrial delay, because what it means is that some inmates who are unable to make even modest bails are held in custody pretrial potentially for extended periods of time. And that's not a healthy practice for a system of justice.
So bail reform advocates say that's more official support for change than they've ever had before, but they would go much further.
Some states have done the right thing and they've moved away from money bail, and they've looked at other conditions that might ensure a defendant's presence. So maybe it's requiring drug treatment. Maybe you have to report once a week to a probation officer. Maybe you have to wear an ankle bracelet and have real, serious, speedy trial protections that ensure that, except in the most extreme circumstances, you don't have defendants who are incarcerated pre-trial for years.
So these 11 months that Victor Rivera served in the Essex County Jail had nothing to do with whether he was a risk to society?
None at all.
Nothing to do whether he was a danger to the community?
Nothing to do with ensuring his appearance at court either, which is really what bail is for.
So what was it about?
It was about not having enough money.
Not being able to come up with $2,500.
Exactly.
So was Victor Rivera actually guilty? I have no idea. But whether he was or not, his inability to make bail and his guilty plea were inextricably connected. Is that something that should concern, even upset, our faith in a fair and just system?